Been so long thinking I had to fight this by myself. But I can stand here today because y'all stood with me. Because you stood with me.
We got you. Always.
That's right, man.
I ain't alone anymore.
No, you're not. Good. Stretch. Good.
Good evening and happy Friday, and welcome to another episode of the Hearts of Men podcast here on the Empower Perspective podcast. I am one of your co-hosts for this afternoon, for this evening, and I go by the name of the Uncle Junior, also the consistency coach. With me on the panel today, we have none other than son of Timothy, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Available Man himself. Saluting us with that ugly hat. No, I'm just playing. I like the hat. Just being for real. I just not a big fan of the New Yorkers. But y'all did win the title this year. So at the end of the day, I got to stand down. But the Cowboys gonna win it this our year. Whatever, blah, 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 blah. Look, coach already shaking his head. This gonna be one of them types of nights. So
every time y'all see
on
it, that's the jinx. Y'all saying it is the jinx. But thank you for jinxing y'all. Go ahead. My bad.
Same story every year.
We also have, ladies and gentlemen, the mindset coach himself, Dr. Dwayne Dwyer, certified speaker and coach, all of that things. Ladies and gentlemen, how are you guys doing this Friday evening at 8:03 p.m. Eastern Standard Time?
I'm gonna speak for the gentleman on the panel, and we're doing fine. We're doing great. We're doing great. We're doing awesome. It's another beautiful day. It's Friday, as always. I get to hang out with y'all and have a great conversation, and of course, get to hang out with the livest chat and social media. Man, I have no complaints whatsoever.
Mm-hmm. Man, listen, I'm sitting up here looking at the panel like it's three people up here, and I know who the lady ain't. The lady ain't me, so I'm trying to figure out who he talking to.
I apologize. I was in between two thoughts at the same time. I was about to start speaking to the ladies in the chat, but at the same time, because I got sidetracked by the hat. You know what I'm saying? So that threw me off. So by the time I got back to introducing coach, you know, it kind of threw me off my game a little.
Yeah, my bad. That's what greatness does. 27 world titles. Do that. Baffles people. My bad. But I'm great,
it, man. Only thing I want to know is how many of those pitches did you throw?
How many did I see?
Throw.
Oh, how many of them pitches did I throw?
Yeah.
Same amount of them touchdowns of them cowgirls you threw.
There you go. That's what I'm talking about. That's why I like it. Let's go. We're gonna have fun tonight, man. I am really excited to be here this afternoon with you, Jim. Just like you said, it's always exciting having great conversations and stuff like that. I had one earlier this week, man. Just sometimes, man, you don't know how much you miss just being around other men, just having conversations, even if it's just shooting the breeze or something like that. I'm honored and thankful that, I can have some open-minded conversations over here, and we can talk about some stuff and be real and honest and open-minded and all of those good things. So again, I'm looking forward to tonight's show, finding clarity when chaos strikes, because if you're like me, at 50 years old, there has been a lot of chaos, and sometimes it snuck up on me. Sometimes I asked for it and all the other reasons. But at the end of the day, for most people, I think that's something that we all can kind of talk about and kind of relate to when it comes to chaos. So before we get started, one of the things we are going to do is we are going to acknowledge every single person who is in here. If I miss your name, I apologize. There's a lot of different platforms here. We're on Facebook and LinkedIn, YouTube, Instagram, all of the other things like that. So if I miss you again, I apologize. If I do miss you, go ahead and type your name down in the chat or something like that, and I'll make sure I'll shout you out. So With that being said, ladies and gentlemen, the rebirth of Nick D. Thank you for being here, Crystal Everett. Thank you for being here. It is some more over here. Let me slide over to this one over here. His divine appointment. Thank you for being here. In Atlas Keys, Key Reality. I might have butchered that all up. Robin Brower, appreciate you for being here. Lisa Keys. Yes, is Maya. I think I got everybody. All right. If I missed anybody, I apologize. Go ahead and type your name in the chat or say hey or throw me a wave or something like that, gentlemen. Before we get started, you guys have anything that you guys want to say or share, admin notes, anything like that you want to put out? Hold on, you muted, Coach.
My bad. Tomorrow morning, 10:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'm telling you, you might want to be there. I had my nose on the grindstone all week, man. I'm excited. So 10:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. You are not called to grow your ministry. You might want to be there.
Ooh, I think I'm tuning in tomorrow at 10:30. Matter of fact, I'm about to open up. I don't think I got nothing going on. Yeah. I'm tapping in tomorrow at 10:30. Yeah, I got me something to do in the morning. With that being said, we're going to get started today with tonight's episode. With tonight's episode. What I missed? I looked away.
Man, the QR code is always on the wrong side on his screen. So
for me, man, it's right here. Yeah,
I think he got it on reflection instead of mirror. I don't know.
Yeah, I did. It'd be wrong. It's right here. Oh, it's right here. That's how you get there.
I don't know what I got mine on. Here we go, ladies and gentlemen. So life has a way of changing directions without asking for permissions. Sometimes it's a phone call. Sometimes it's a decision you didn't expect. Sometimes it's something you've been avoiding that finally catches up with you. And here's the interesting part. Chaos doesn't always look chaotic. Sometimes it looks uncertainty. It looks like uncertainty. Sometimes it looks like waiting. Sometimes it looks like having too many options or none at all. We've all heard the phrase, when life gets crazy, stay focused. But that's easier said than done. So tonight, we're not telling you what clarity looks like. We're exploring what happens when life gets loud, how different people respond to it, and whether clarity is something you discover or something you choose to create. With that being said, gentlemen, and everybody that's here with us, our first thing we're going to do is we're going to hit 3 definitions real quick. Ladies and gentlemen in the chat or anybody here tonight, if you feel or think you want to maybe adjust this, but we're just going to have these 3 definitions just to kind of set a foundation for the conversation. So the first definition of the night is the word clarity. So clarity is the ability to understand a situation with greater confidence, direction, or perspective. That is the definition that we're going to use tonight for clarity. What say you, gentlemen?
I'm okay with it.
All right, we rolling on down to the second one. This one is chaos. Now, I don't know if this was going to roll, but for right now, this is what we're going to use. Chaos, a period of uncertainty, disruption, confusion, or rapid change that challenges normal routines or expectations. That is the definition of a chaos. I'm like that one too. All right. Next one, we're going to slide on down to perspective. So perspective, the way someone interprets or understands an experience based on their beliefs, knowledge, and life experiences. I think that one could probably go a little bit deeper. Probably could adjust some things right there, but I think for right now, I'm okay with it. What about you guys?
I think the only sauce I add into it is where it says experience, because not just experience, experience or information gained. I guess all of that fall under experience, but kind of like you said, it can go a little those words.
This one sounds more like perception to me.
So if we was to adjust perspective for the conversation, or should we just change the word?
I mean, I don't know the flow, so I don't want to tell you how to do it. But I
Okay.
think this definition more so describes perception.
Okay.
Because under like what I bring in, understanding, interpretation, that would be perception. Perspective is the lens in which I see the world through.
Okay. All right. I can roll with that too. All right. So the first question is going to be for us, and it's also going to be for the chat. So chat, feel free to take a couple minutes, get those thumbs working, and let us know what your response is to this question. So when you hear the word, and this is for the gentleman as well, when you hear the word chaos, what comes to mind first? And does everyone experience chaos the same way?
Pre-conflict and no. Chaos generally comes before the conflict. And does everybody experience chaos the same? No. Everybody doesn't experience the same type of chaos. What might be chaos to one person may not necessarily be chaos to the other.
I definitely agree with that.
Yeah, I'm kind of similar. When I hear the word chaos, first thing to my mind, I don't know. Is the first thing in my mind is not really words. It's just like the visual of just like being in a restaurant and food and plates just all in the air. Ain't nobody eating. You know what I mean? It's like it's just a mess. Um, I like that word disorder in the chat. So I'm right there. And when does everyone experience chaos the same? We experience similar things, right? We could be in the same room when something chaotic happens, but we will experience it differently. Yes, and that goes back to the definition because of our perception and our perspective.
I'm I'm in agreement. I don't, when I hear the word of chaos, first thing comes to mind, I'm thinking of clutter. I vision, you've seen that show Hoarders, and you walk in there and there's stuff everywhere. And to me, that's chaos. But to the second part of this, does everyone experience chaos the same? To me, that's chaos. But if you're living in that, obviously you're okay with that. So, but at the same time, is that us experiencing chaos differently, or is that just our perspective on chaos is different? Because I'm wondering if, they say, I'm thinking about chaos biologically. If you experience something as chaos and then I experience something chaos, biologically, do we go into that flight or the flight, fight, or what's the other one? The other one where you just stand still,
Fight,
whatever.
fight, or
Whatever. I
flight.
don't remember what it is. But like, do we all go to those three things, or is it just, you know what I mean? Like, I'm trying to. It seems like maybe we are talking about the same thing, but I don't know if we are talking about the same thing.
So I would say this. I think there are different degrees of chaos. Number one, there is a controlled chaos. Make no mistake about it. I think sometimes when we think of the word chaos, we just think it's a blanket statement that covers everything that equates to, going back to Meyer's term, disorder. But that's not always true. Sometimes when it comes down, especially if we understand something that might be happening or something that's coming up, we can set the conditions to where that thing that's coming up, knowing that it can be chaos, it can be controlled. So now once it shows itself, we have, measures and triggers and things in there so that we'll know what to do in the midst of it. So even though it's chaotic on the outside, it's more so controlled. Therefore, it doesn't get out of hand. But then there is the higher version of chaos to where there is no control. Everything goes haywire, so forth and so on. And that's where we at the stage of pre-conflict. I think a majority of the things that we experience, a majority, not all, a majority of the things that we experience that we perceive could be chaotic. A lot of it reveals the chaos that exists in me. Therefore, now when I see a thing, it is chaotic. Make no mistake about it, chaos in most cases involves a notion of control. And if I can't control the narrative, now that's chaotic to the person, if that's what they're existing in. But the more you relinquish control, and again, that's why I say not all situations, but the more you relinquish the control, the less things outside of you can be chaotic. Something externally can be chaotic, but it's not a chaos for me.
Is cake can is or maybe not is can maybe is. I don't know which one. I think I'm gonna start with is. Is chaos an indicator
Of
like of anything? Like if like to the next like if I guess I'm thinking that it is. It can be an indicator because like if I walk into a space like on Hoarders and I see stuff everywhere, to me that's an indicator that something is going on. So if I have chaos in my life, if I have chaos in my finances, if I have chaos in my relationships, I guess I'm looking at that at the same time, just adding to that being an indicator that something's off.
sure.
I mean, that's evident in the yearly prevention courses we used to take, right? Um, we used to take the resiliency classes every year. Like I I think just like what you're saying is evident in the things that we see. Like, hey, these things, the same things you just mentioned, you know, hoarders or not doing the things you used to do, moving out of order when you used to be in order, right? Like these are indicators that something is going on, right? You see
Mm-hmm.
changes in behavior, you see destructive behavior. Something's going on. It's just not everybody not everybody is speaking about what's going on. And I think that's where the problem comes in because we see people like this and we say nothing. We don't we don't even encourage them to get help. We just be like, I'm praying for you. So where's the action? But I'll leave that alone.
No, I like it. And moving to the next question, but also if I look at Atlas Keys to Key Reality, that statement says conflict can cause chaos. So to that statement goes the first question of the night. And that question is this: Does chaos, where is it at? Oh, yeah. Does chaos come from what's happening around us or from how we interpret what's happening?
Yes.
Yes.
I mean,
So it's both?
yeah, it can be both. That's kind of like what I was saying. Like, I agree, chaos is a higher form of disorder than conflict. And in most cases, chaos leads to conflict. Right. But then by that same token, if chaos exists outside of me, if I don't feel any type of anxiety, angst, or whatever as it pertains to it, it's not a conflict for me. But to somebody else, they may have conflict with the external chaos. So when we look at responses now, the response, conflict, that's the response to chaos, conflict is of a higher nature than chaos, even though chaos is of a higher disorder. So you go into conflict because you're trying to control chaos to get it to some degree of manageability or whatever. So when you look at, does chaos come from what's happening around us? It can. Just pay attention to what you see in the world today, or from how we interpret it. To some people, absolutely. Some people could care less what's going on because they already have things in order, right? They already have degrees of authority set up so that when this happened, then this would happen, and so forth and so on. So that's why I say yes to all of this, because it all depends on another person's perspective and perception.
And just to add a layer to it, like if you're in a space of leadership, or even as a man, as men leading our homes or in our communities, if we're doing our job and we're watchful, right? It's not necessarily that it always comes from what we have interpreted, but is how we interpret what we see coming. So we start taking preventive measures, right? That's that's it's kind of what we do as leaders, right? And not saying that you just thinking everything's going to go wrong, but when you see indicators or when you see things coming on the horizon, like, hey, we're not going to do that because if we do that, these are the possible outcomes. This is a better route, right? But so I think a part of how we interpret it, but it's a part of too how we plan forward, being able to interpret or foresee possibilities of chaos. Like I don't know why especially when I was listening to Coach Think talk, that's how my mom was working with this one. But yeah, I think it's a mixture of the things of what's going on around and what's being interpreted. And it can also come from upbringing. I look at something else as chaotic that you may not look at as chaotic. Like it's true. If you take someone from one of those traditional Islamic countries and put them down in the hood and let them see how people are dressing and talking, like that will be chaotic to them. Like what's going, like that'll probably bring a level of anxiety because it's how they were brought up versus how they were brought up. So yes, it creates that interpretation of chaos.
Gentlemen, Coach, I don't know. I look at the word accountability, and for some reason I keep leaning towards it's all on how we interpret it. I don't see it as both. Now, I am definitely always willing to have my opinion changed with more information. And here's my counter rebuttal to that. If there's a lot of chaos that's going on at work, or there's something that goes on in the neighborhood, or something over there's chaos around. If I choose, it's how I feel or think or how I respond to all of this stuff is going to be directly related to how I interpret what's happening, right? I think we've all established that. But the only other part about that is I'm not understanding how those things can be. I'm not understanding. I guess what I'm looking at is those things are external. The interpretation part is the internal part. I'm not seeing how the external part is at fault at all, because at the end of the day, I have it. Yes, someone may view things differently, but at the end of the day, is it still on how they interpret it at the end of the day, regardless of whether or not they see it or not? I guess I'm kind of leaning towards more it's just on me.
Let me bring this in real quick.
Yeah.
You go to sleep tonight, somebody break in your house, you in conflict or chaos. Which one is it?
I'm probably going to be in conflict.
Not yet. You in chaos first.
I'm about to say chaos is
you in chaos first. Now you got to get up. You got to go get your equipment, whatever it is you need, right?
I just got to lean over.
Absolutely, that too. But you got to get to it. Now you got to locate. Now you got to locate the perpetrator. Now you're in conflict because you're starting to manage chaos at that point. External absolutely has an effect. It all depends on me. Now, the other side of it, do I have an alarm in my house? Do I have a dog that's a dog as a early warning detection device? Am I living in a gated community? All of those things. So those are measurements that we put in place to control chaos. Chaos can actually happen outside the door, but if it's not inside my door, it's not chaos for me.
I'm getting it. I got it. Dang, a freaking simple analogy. That's why I like analogies, man. Something simple. And then you had already explained it, but I guess maybe I was too pigheaded. I'm too stuck on my own personal opinion about it that I wasn't open to it at first until you gave the analogy. I don't know.
That's all right. It happened.
Yeah. But I got that accountability, my brothers. You know what I'm saying? So appreciate everything that everybody said in the chat, all those different things like that. Definitely appreciate all the responses and everything like that. So it's safe to say there is a before the chaos happens.
It's called competition.
Appointment.
That's called competition.
Competition. There we go. All right, let's move on to the next question, gentlemen. Next question of the night is this. Ooh, actually, is a question. Actually, yes. We're gonna do the poll, and then we're gonna while we got the poll up, we're going to answer the question why people are responding to the poll. So the poll is this. That's what the poll is, ladies and gentlemen. When life gets chaotic, what's your first response? Do you or number one, take action immediately, stop and think, ask someone I trust, or it depends on the situation? Now, just respond how you want to. That's all I'm gonna say. All right, so while that's up there, ladies and gentlemen, and while you guys are responding, the next question of the night is this. Can two people experience the same situation but walk away with completely different levels of clarity, and why? For some reason, I can't help but see a conversation between a husband and a wife, or a boyfriend and a girlfriend right here. But whatever you guys want to do.
I mean, we kind of talked about it leading into it, right?
Yeah, I think so.
When we start talking about things like experiences, perspective, perception, like what builds those things? Where is this coming from? It's based upon the patterns that life has dealt us, the things that I was telling somebody, I was like, I remember a day where the only scriptures that I could quote were the ones that I heard the preachers say over and over. Because everybody who ever been to a church long enough, your preacher got them same 5 verses they like to quote all the time. It don't matter the sermon. Them one of them 5 gonna come up. All right, them the 5 I knew. And then one day, I was like, I don't really believe this thing because I don't read this thing. So I started like it's a development of exposure. Like this is what I knew at this point. So this is all I can base my understanding of what I believe based upon these 5 verses because that's all I know. But now that I have gone deeper, my understanding, my belief is built on a little bit more. You know what I'm saying? So my experience with life is with new lens. So when I see certain things go on in the world and everybody's saying, "Oh, it's chaos coming," I'm saying, "No, it's the sun coming." You know what I mean? Like I see what's going on through a different lens. I don't look at the world and I don't look at the craziness going on as chaos anymore. Sometimes I get frustrated when it affects you, right? When some of it touch home, it gets to you. But I'm coming in and I'm like, these are following patterns that were laid before us. So I'm not really that concerned because I know what this is leading to. And so, yes.
He said, so yes.
So everything he said, I agree with. And I'll go a step further. I think sometimes, and this is across the board, anybody, and applies to everybody. I think sometimes we confuse awareness with understanding. And so we become aware of a thing and we think we know the thing that we're aware of, and therefore we move on to something else. And then when life shows up and tests that thing that you think you know, your response to that thing shows that you never understood it. You was only aware that it existed. So in the midst of it, in the midst of everything that Gaddy said, on top of that, our inability to prepare, right? Our inability to prepare for certain situations, prepare for certain outcomes, to set the conditions so that if competition goes awry and we move from competition into potential chaos, right? We don't have the necessary tools that we need in order to respond accordingly. Therefore, conflict must ensue in order to kind of control chaos again. So we can be in two of the same types of situations and walk away with two different lines of clarity. One person can walk away from a situation and say, man, I learned a lot about myself. Somebody else can walk away from that situation and say, man, that I can't believe they did that to us. So now one person is leaving that situation, learning and growing and maturing, to the other person leave the situation blaming. Those are two totally different levels of understanding and two totally different outcomes that's going to come from a situation like that. So now, when that same situation presents itself again, this person that left saying, I learned a lot about myself, get the opportunity to apply the things that they learned. This person who left, they said, I can't believe they did that to us. They're going to go right back to they're doing it again. I can't believe, just give them time. They're still always going to set the conditions to where they try to put us in. So that's my point. Two people can walk away from two people can walk away from the same thing with two totally different outcomes, simply because a lot of times we confuse awareness with understanding and we just move right on like we have learned something.
Picture it, Fort Leonard Wood, 1994, Private Martin. So, you know how at nighttime we're in the barracks, we in basic training, and we have, you may be too young for this, guy. You came in.
Yeah, I was in the 4th grade.
Yeah, you was in the new Army. So in '94, that's when I went to basic Fort Leonard Wood, and I remember one night, it was a certain time lights was out, maybe at 9:00, but before lights out, you had like an hour, maybe from 8 to 9, to like take showers, write letters, and all of the other stuff. Well, we got to the barracks a little bit early. So what I did was before 8:00, because you couldn't get undressed and take a shower before 8:00. But I was like, look, man, I got to hurry up and get in the shower before everybody else do, so I can get back out here and I can write this letter to my girl. That's the only thing I was thinking about, right? So what I decided to do, I got undressed a little bit earlier, about 3 or 4 minutes before. Boy, dress on them came through there, blah, 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 blah. Man, for the next whole hour, what I had to do is I had to just keep changing uniforms. Go put on full battle router, go back, put your class A's on, come back, go put on your BDUs, back and forth, just keep changing uniform. Go back, put on all your PTs, you know what I mean? Because I was out of uniform, so they was corrective training me. And so we got smoked. It wasn't just me, it was a couple other guys. So what happened after all of that, we got smoked for a little bit. But when we're talking about how two people can walk away from the same experience with completely different levels of clarity, well, the other guys, they walked away and, they went back to doing what they was doing. Private Martin, I went back out. I went out that night and snuck out and went to the snack machine to go get some candy bars so I can make some money. Because back then, you could go and get candy bars for 50 cents out the vending machine and come back and sell them for $2.50. So even though we experienced that same stuff, this joker hard head over here, so this is, I definitely agree with that. People can experience the same exact situations, walk away with two completely different levels of clarity. I still didn't have my head on straight after all of that, so definitely in agreement with both of you guys' perspectives and stuff like that. Y'all was good in basic training. Bro, my middle son was doing the same thing. I was like, bro, like, what are you doing?
He chip off the old block. That's what he's doing.
Yeah, that joker, like, I see a lot of him and how he's like doing in the military right now. I see a lot of that in me. I'm like, bro, I hope you make it through. But he'd be all right, man. All right, so let's back to the poll question. When life gets chaotic, what's your first response? No one said take immediate action. 2 people said stop and think. No one said ask someone I trust, but most people said it depends on the situation. I answered, I'll go first with what I put. I put down I stop and think, but I think for the most part, it is depending on the situation. I think that's the easy go-to answer because at the end of the day, it is. But I think for the most people, I'm not going to say most people, but I think at least for me, I tend to lean towards doing one of these more than others. And that's why I answered number 2. So usually when chaos happens, I usually am not the person to take immediate action. You know what I mean? I usually take a minute, sit back, think about exactly what's going on, try to have a good picture of exactly what everything is, think about it, and then and then respond or take appropriate action after that. But unless someone is coming in here, unless someone is coming in here like in coaches in analogy, I'm not taking immediate action, but for the most part, I tend to lean towards I stop and think. But what do you guys think about this poll?
I'm your second stop and think. I'm the same way. I feel like in all scenarios, right, whether I act quick or not, I'm still thinking before I act. Like, what's my best course of action? What's my best route of escape? Right, one of the two. Even somebody could come busting through the door. My first thought process is with my weapon. I know where it's always within arm's reach, right? But still, like, that's your first thought because I'm not going to go investigate and then have to come back and find it. No, where little Jimmy, so I can take him with me, so we can go downstairs and see what the rattling all about, right? But there is a thought process. So that's how I look at it. There's a thought process that takes place before I act. I can't just.
I'm the depends guy. That's what I'm saying. Like there are certain situations like Gaddy was just saying. I don't have time to stop and think. I need to react. I need to respond to, and depending upon, and this is the thing that people don't like to talk about. This is why I hate when you have these terms, toxic masculinity. Some things need to be met with aggression for the sake of reducing the potential chaos that it presents. So do I really need to stop and think in certain situations? No, I don't. I need to react because it needs me to react. Ideally, hopefully, I set the conditions for the appropriate level of response. That's why you did all that training when you was in the army. Ain't nobody thinking when you on the battlefield. Come on, man. We ain't thinking. We responding. That's it. You've practiced and rehearsed this over and over again. You responded. There are certain things to where you have to stop and think. But I believe that might be far less than what we believe it is. A lot of the things, when you really stop and think about it, it requires a response. And I know you said react in the poll, but at the end of the day, it's really, I'm just for the sake of what I'm saying, it's really a response. It's the response to the thing that you have looked at, assessed, and determined that this is the appropriate level of response that I need at this moment. That doesn't necessarily require me to do a whole lot of thinking. That requires me to respond. So that's why I say it depends. Are there times where I need to stop and think and process? Yes, because I have a certain window in which I can respond. As long as I understand that this is available, then yes, now I will stop and think. But if I don't know how much of this I got, a response is coming. It might not be the best one, but it's going to be one. And I guarantee you the response is going to kind of quiet the storm just a little bit.
Yeah. You mentioned about thinking, and that kind of segues us right into the next question, which is what makes it difficult to think clearly when life feels uncertain, because I can just recall some times where there was a lot of stuff going on in my life, and I didn't think clearly, and there were some things and some thoughts that I was having that was, unpopular and that I would never thought that I'd ever have before. But, what do y'all think makes it difficult to think clearly, when life feels uncertain, because we all experience it.
Well, I will start by saying maybe, you didn't think clearly when life wasn't uncertain. I'll start there. I'm not talking you. I'm just saying.
Yeah. But I mean, that probably applies to that too.
Because let's be honest, how many people like at a certain period of time in their life live life by the seat of their pants? That's the old phrase that we use, right? You don't know, you ain't planning for nothing. You're just waking up the next day and just enjoying what the day gives you. So now when chaos hits, or it doesn't even have to be chaos. It can be simple competition. Competition meets you, you think it's chaos simply because you never had no definitive plan, no clear understanding, no authority that you adhered to and things of that nature. So now my thought loops, my thinking patterns are not necessarily designed to go in a particular direction. My thinking patterns are literally going in loops. And they're just going in loops and loops and loops. And so now it's like, I see that. But you want me to pay this bill by when? Man, I got this stuff over here. These new pair of J's just came out. That's an easy decision to make. Pay your bills or get them J's.
J's.
But them J's look good, bro. Pay your bills or get them J's. They just came out. I'm just saying. I want to be the first in my block with these new J's. So you go get the J's, right? So now what you have done, you don't put yourself in a soon to be chaos because that bill is still due. That time is getting shorter. And now it's like, I don't know what to do now. I don't know what to do. I need some money. Daddy, mama, you're a grown man. You know what I'm saying? Those are the things that I think that's really how it works for the most part. That was a simple analogy, one that I know everybody like, yeah, it's an easy decision to make. Let's change the dynamics of it though. When you change the dynamics of it, you're like, ooh, yeah, I've probably seen that. You've seen that this person show up. You've seen this person look good and smelling good, dressing good. But then when you ask like what they, you start having conversation with them, it's like the conversation is like, man, but they look good and they smell good. I'm gonna make this decision. You see what I'm saying? We've all done it. No one is exempt. And the only people who claiming that they're exempt, they still lying to themselves. Until they cut, they're probably still doing stuff just like that right now and still telling the same lie. So that's why I say, like, what makes it that way? I think a lot of times we've never really thought clearly because no one ever taught us how to think. And so we think what people tell us to think, and then we allow that to be the driving force behind clarity. But there is no clarity when someone is telling you how to think, especially if they never teach you, I'm sorry, not how to think. When someone is telling you what to think, right? There is no clarity there because the only clarity that you're going to ever experience is the clarity that they create for you.
I think where I'm struggling with this one is, are we talking about the same clarity? Because in this aspect, right, when life gets so difficult that everything feels uncertain, I don't think it's clarity of the mind or of information or of the path or stuff. At this point, it's cloudy because your path is not clear, right? See, the clarity that we find in comfort sometimes is I have a designed path and I can see my way there. See, but when things come and obstruct that vision, when things come from the left or from the right, it obstructs that vision. Now we're lacking the clear vision of where we're going because of the unknown variables that have taken place. And so when I'm looking at this question, what makes it difficult to think clearly when life feels uncertain is because your comfort got shaken up, got rattled. And so you can't go on go throughout your day as usual. Your quiet moments are now moments flooded with thoughts. I got to do this because you now you got to figure out what's the contingency for what just happened or what's about to happen. All right, that's what happened. So now what's the contingencies? What can I do to mitigate some of my loss or some of my pain? What steps can I do? Can I move to the left? Can I dodge? Can I bob and weave? I see this hook coming. I got to get out the way or lesser the blow. And so when that takes up our quiet times, that takes up our time. That's that time when we're thinking about the path, when we're thinking about what's ahead. But now I don't have that time anymore, that luxury to enjoy the thought process of how this is going to play out, because everything is working out in my favor. Now that it got a little shaky, favor don't seem like it's attached to me. So I don't know what's going. So now I'm in worry. And in that state of worry, now we've just created the whirlwind. Now the chaos exists because the chaos is existing internally. All right. I know the stuff that went on around happened, but life happens. That's not the chaos. The chaos is how I react to it, how I receive it, and what I do with it when I get it. That's where I'm finding the chaos is internal. I know I just said a lot, but this question kind of flipped me from where I was.
I think you added to the question, though. Mm-hmm. The question, and I get what you're saying, but the question isn't about chaos. It's just about uncertainty. And I'm agreeing with you with the comfort zone piece, but I think people who seek to be in comfort zones, they don't really think forward outside of the comfort zone. They really just think forward. They really just think on how do I get back to being comfortable. So it's like this thing happens. How do I stop this thing from happening right now? Period. Point blank. Not how do I move out of this comfort zone so that this thing never follows me to the next place. They just look to kind of, stop it from happening in the here and now. So I'm not disagreeing with you, but I think it's more about uncertainty than it is about chaos. And I don't necessarily agree that uncertainty and chaos is the same thing. Uncertainty just simply means that I'm not sure of the path. I'm not necessarily sure what tomorrow's going to bring. I'm not necessarily sure what's going to happen. Well, I think in that regard, you probably just described about 75% of the United States. Because no one, for the most part, I believe, is certain about what's going to happen next year.
And I agree. I wasn't saying they were the same thing. I was bringing the connection that the question was asking, the connection between the lack of clarity and uncertainty. So that's kind of how I was, how the puzzle came together for me as far as that connection.
Okay, gotcha.
See, Gaddy, I was rocking with you at first, but then you went differently than where I thought you were going. And you started talking about initially about going down a path and kind of the unknown about or uncertainty about what's in front of you. So in my mind, I'm thinking about driving a car and then all of a sudden it's fog in front of me. So now I feel uncertain about driving. So it's like, all right, so now what do? Do I pull over? Do I pause? Do I keep going? Do I slow down? Do I put my hazards on? Like, what type of safety measures do I do because I'm uncertain? So I think what makes it difficult to think clearly sometimes in those situations is a whole bunch of things. One of y'all, I think both of y'all kind of mentioned the word resilience and army and training and stuff like that. We reacted to a lot of things. One, because we had resilience, and another thing because it was second nature because we drilled it over and over and over and over and over and over and over. You know what I'm saying? But when you haven't drilled it, when you haven't been taught, when you're not used to being in those situations where you're driving on the highway and then there's fog, you don't know, or you don't necessarily know how to respond or how to react. So it can make thinking clearly very difficult because you've never been in a situation before, because you're ignorant or this is your first time in it. It's a lot of different reasons why, I think I don't know what the top ones would be, but I would think that part of it would have to be, I don't want to say ignorance, but I want to say like maybe just not familiar with the situation. And then if I'm going back to, if I'm driving like down the highway and then there's fog, the thing that's going to make me feel uncertain and going to be difficult and kind of with my clarity is the first time I'm doing this, when I'm 18 years old and I'm driving 3 hours away to my first party at the my first Q Dog party at the HBCU, right? Versus I'm 50 years old, I done drove across this country 50,000 times. You know what I mean? So now I don't have an issue when the fall comes. So do y'all believe some of that have to do with just not being in those situations, and that's why people are unclear when it comes and have a difficult time thinking clearly? I know I
Yeah,
said a whole bunch to say none.
no, yeah, it's kind of like what I was just saying just now.
Yeah,
Like,
okay.
when I don't know, what the particular outcome is, I'm uncertain, I'm unsure of what's going to happen tomorrow, so forth and so on. That's part of it. And so I don't necessarily have the what's the word I'm looking for? I don't necessarily have the neural pathways to give me the course that I need to solve this problem. The problem of the unknown as it pertains to this, right? The only reason we're not fearful of what tomorrow brings is because we have rehearsed waking up for however many years you're alive. So you're not necessarily fearful of what tomorrow brings, but if something was to change, i.e., you get a severe storm alert at 1 o'clock in the morning, now there might be a degree of fear of what tomorrow will bring. So that's what I'm saying. Uncertainty, and I think I'm kind of getting into Robin's question here. Uncertainty, not knowing a thing, not necessarily have the neural pathways, which equates to the practice behavior of doing a thing, right? It creates a level of fear, and it absolutely puts me back in a survival instinct mode to where I'm worried about protecting my well being and the people that I love within my home. We're not worried about thriving in that moment. We're worried about getting through that moment so that the storm can pass. Once the storm can pass, everybody can go to sleep and relax. But until then, I need you to get up. I need you to put your shoes on. I need you to go around the corner. We need to clean this closet out, drag everything out of that closet, and we start packing everybody in that closet. So that's what I mean.
Yeah, I think it's everything that we've all said together, right? Because I don't hear any of it separating, but the fullness of kind of what the question you was asking on, But I think the loss of clarity happens or exists in your response to the uncertainty. I don't think the uncertainty in and of itself, because kind of like Coach explained a little earlier, some things I've dealt with enough. Like you said, I've driven around this country 50 times at whatever age we are, right? Um, and and so if the roads are, I notice I'm in a specific city and the road is blocked, or the exit that I need is blocked off, I know how to get there getting off at the next exit. So it didn't create a loss of clarity for me. But if I respond to it and I go into road rage and anger begins to cloud my vision. Now, so for me, it's the response to the uncertainty. That's why I was saying earlier, like for me, it's with this specific arena, like I feel like that we're talking about a mental chaos now, because it's happening here, creating a cloudiness. Because I could definitely just get off at the next exit and navigate. I know the city, but I got frustrated and I got aggravated. It didn't go the way I thought. I already had my route planned out, and I had my route. I'm off 2 minutes on my route. Like, all right, it's gonna be okay. But some of us are so tied to doing it this way that uncertainty messes us up.
But isn't that where all chaos exists? in your mind.
Essentially, yeah.
So I'm gonna get to Robin Brower's question.
You mean the one that's on the screen?
Yes, the one on the screen. Oh, you already got it?
No, you good. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, dude, yeah, the one on the screen. But I got a follow-on question. I'm gonna get to her. No. You can go back. You can put hers back up there. Yeah. But one thing I was thinking about is, the last question it said, can people experience the exact same situation but walk away with completely different levels of clarity, and why? And that's exactly right here. So like even us, every time me and Gaddy listen to Coach, there may be a different level of clarity, even though we're listening to the same exact thing, or vice versa with everybody up here. You know what I'm saying? Perfect example, but I did have a follow-on question to the other one after this, but I want to get to her first. So, gentlemen, would you say again, first of all, Robin, thank you for your question. Appreciate your time and support on this channel. Would you say your brain perceives the unknown as a threat triggering a survival response?
I already answered that. Yeah, you can go ahead.
I was gonna say it again. Oh yeah, this one. Yeah, so for me, when I'm hearing this question, I'm thinking more in the sense of people who've come out of poverty. A lot of people, a lot of times your relationship with money is fear, and so when you have these unknown threats that can affect your finances, right? You know, like a car accident, when someone drove through my house or whatever the case may be, I'm like, man, this is going to take a hit on us financially. Like, but those, I think a lot of people are tied to the fear of going back broke, right? So they create this automatic, survival response. So I don't think that it's absolute, but I do think that it's a thing.
Hold on, there we go. Well, gentlemen, my follow-on question is this one. It's just a follow-on question to this. So there was a lot of stuff said on this question right here. So there's a little bit of unclarity on my part. So what I want to do, I just want to go to the answer. So and then kind of go back from there. So, the question is, what makes it difficult to think clearly when life feels uncertain? So how is it that or is it why is this something that you can work on to get better at? Like, because uncertainty is always going to happen. So for people out there, it's like, man, uncertainty is always going to happen, blah, blah, blah. Is there something specifically that I or we or that people can do to work on this? So when there is times where they feel uncertain, that they think more clearly. That's my follow-on question.
I think this one is hard because we're kind of talking about uncertainty. I'm uncertain of what is going to come up to kind of say that there's a cookie cut answer. But I know, this is why we do things like we create savings accounts. We put money aside for a rainy day, because not that money answers every question, but sometimes most things that we worry about, minus unaliving, money can somehow be involved with the fix. So we always have this concept of, we save. We have these contingencies in place. People who's in fear of the zombie takeover, they're stacking up their water and tissue right now because they don't know what's going to happen to the dollar and all this other stuff. But that uncertainty, the only thing that you can, it just depends on what's the situation that we're uncertain about. Like, is there a contingency plan that we can put in place? Why wait till it gets bad? If that's a fear, if that's something that's worrying us, why wait till it gets bad? Or until the thing comes up. let's take a contingency plan. To me, that's the only fix. If there's something that I can pre-plan for like that.
So, is there something, I want to make sure I'm remembering the question as you said it. Is there something that a person can do to overcome the uncertainty that they experience?
Not necessarily the uncertainty, but like when they get in those situations that they start to think clearly about things when they're uncertain versus always having the difficulty and always the difficulty thinking clearly.
Yes. First thing you need to do is scan that QR code right there. That's when we start. Scan that QR code. I'm saying that, and it sounds like a joke, but I promise you I'm serious. Because here's the problem. The reason why we find discomfort in uncertainty is because in uncertainty we have zero control. So what we do, go back and listen to what Gaddy just said, because he's spot on. What we attempt to do is we try to set the conditions so that we can control the controllables in uncertainty. So that's where the whole savings account come in. That's where the whole 401k come in at. Just like when I gave the example about the severe storm, I gave the example of putting all the people in a closet. That way I have everybody in close proximity. We did all the things the Weather Channel told us to do. So we're trying to establish some degree of control in what is now uncertainty. So if you really want to get to the point to where you're thinking clearly in uncertainty, stop trying to control everything. Be comfortable with not knowing the outcome. Here's the other side to it. If you really want your life to be better, you don't know what that looks like. You know what you want it to look like, but you don't have the experience to know what it look like. So you're going to be uncertain with that. So until you release that level of needing to know, right? Needing to know what it looks like, needing to know what I'm going to experience, needing to know what somebody's going to say, needing to know this, needing to know that. Until you let that go, and and people hear me say that, and it's not easy to do just by hearing somebody say it. Until you learn to let that go, you're going to keep creating the same life that you've always had because you're controlling every aspect of your life. So you can't be in that level of control saying, oh, I want to do this and I want to do that and I want to live like this and I want to live. Not going to happen because you still need to control. That's why uncertainty is a problem, right? Here's the reality of the truth. Everybody who's ever changed their life, don't you know they went through chaos before they found comfort? That is a 100% fact for everybody. I don't care who they went through. I know, Gaddy, you give your story about when you were homeless, right? And it touches me every time you hear. I'm sure being in that situation was uncomfortable, but I guarantee you that created something in you to where it's like, I don't want to go back to that no more. And so in his mind now, he set up like safety valves in his house and in his life to ensure that that doesn't happen anymore. That's how we do it. So in essence, in order to get to the point to where you can find the ability to think clearly in uncertainty, do more push-ups. That's the answer. I hate to say it. I'm joking when I say it, right? How do you get better at doing push-ups? You do more push-ups. How do you get better at running? You do more running. How do you get better at having clarity in the midst of uncertainty? Put yourself in uncertain situations.
It's uncomfortable in uncomfortable situations, though, Coach. We're not trying to do that. Then don't grow, right? Stay stuck.
Listen, I don't know what I'm going to say.
I say it.
But you just heard Coach mention something like, even at its deepest layer, like this is something that you hear all the time in all these different wealth conversations, right? Getting comfortable in the aspect of being uncomfortable, right? Like when you ever sit down and listen to Kobe talk about getting prepared for basketball, like this dude don't have a rest period in life. Like he didn't take rest as serious, right? Like because he's always like somebody's out there working harder to get better, right? So he has adapted his lifestyle to being uncomfortable, and so he's never sitting in his place of comfort, right? That was how he lived his life, how he played basketball. And so when we're talking about uncertainties in life, the only way to get good at reacting to uncertainties, I guess, is like Coach said, putting yourself in. It's just getting used to being uncomfortable, and maybe it'll help us with more than just the uncertainties of life. Maybe that's a good habit to get into in our goals section as well.
That's the only habit. I'm telling you. If you don't do it, life is going to do it for you. So why not be in the driver's seat of the uncertainty? It's not that you're controlling the uncertainty. It's that you're picking and choosing when you're going to be uncertain.
Bro, you just segue right into the next question. You talking about picking and choosing. So speaking of picking and choosing, we go right to the next question. How do you know when it's time to pause versus when it's time to act, though? You know what I mean? I mean, we can always know. We know if somebody coming in the house, we know what to do. You know, that's an easy one. But some of these ones that we don't necessarily know, like how do we know when to pause versus, act? Like, how do I know when to say something to my boss or whatever versus not saying anything or whatever the situation? Oh, actually, hold on. I'm sorry. I really want to get to this, but we got to back up, and I want to get to that other question that we had first. So let's go back and answer that other question, and then we'll come back to this one because we segue right into it, and I didn't want to miss out, but we'll come back to it. We'll derail a whole show, like Coach said, for a question from the chat. So with that being said, Miss Queen V817, thank you for being patient with me. Thank you for putting in this question and giving it to us. So is it possible that you could just not be in tune with your own thoughts and feelings? Me right off the rip, short answer, yes. Anybody else? You said could.
I mean, I have no other choice but to say yes because the question starts off, is it possible?
Mm-hmm.
But my concern is that what does being in tune with my own thoughts look like in a situation where I'm uncertain, right? I know we like to use the term discernment all the time, but discernment requires a higher degree of understanding of something. And if I have a higher degree of understanding of something, that thing that gives me discernment prevents me from being in chaos. So if I find comfort in him, then chaos never consumes me. So then I don't have to worry about chaos or conflict.
I like it. We're gonna jump right to the next question. We hope you answered your question. No, I thought you want to let Gaddy get. I thought that was it.
I forgot.
But that was like that was the mic drop right there. Like I didn't want to add no more to it.
Ain't nothing to add to that.
Yeah, I was like, bro, like I'm over here smiling, like, yeah, like for some reason I wish I was on the other side with my notepad today because there's been a whole bunch of jewels and nuggets that's been pushed out there today. But the coach's other segue, again, thank you. Hope we answered your question. Hope we got it. Next question is this. How do you know when it's time to pause versus when it's time to act? I ain't gonna go no more for the sake of time.
I'll go first on this one because this one I'm gonna stay simplistic and get out the way. Let Coach, do his thug dizzle. But this one to me is simple. If I don't know what to do, I got to pause. We understand there's some things that like Coach said, I think there are some things that we have automatic responses to that we will respond in a certain way. You know what I mean? I already know, like I said, my first thought you come through this door is we're little Jimmy because we're going straight to work. It's dark in this house. I'm not going to try to figure out who you are. I don't care who you are. You in this house and I didn't invite you. Here we go. All right. I get that. But if I don't know what to do, if I'm unsure of what my next step is, then maybe, I take the time to think. But if I've already been prepared, if I've already seen the thing before, if I've been here before, if I've been through this before and I know what to do, then take action. But if you're not, if you got to stop and think, stop and think.
So I'm gonna say something, and I believe Gaddy's gonna come back and say something else after I say this. We've gotten away from training. So we've joined the military, everybody on this panel, and we've went through basic training, which gave us a foundational understanding of how to do the things that we're supposed to do as a soldier. Then we went through advanced individual training, which was more job specific. And then we went to our units and we trained some more. Well, the family has a training program too, but the issue is we kind of thwarted family training program aside. And so when we thwarted the family training program aside, you have a lot of adults who never went through basic training. They never went through advanced individual training. And therefore, with the absence of those foundational understandings that they needed, chaos seems to be more plentiful. See, the answer to this question for me is simple. Bring the question back up again. How do I know when it's time to pause? Because my trainer didn't teach me that. Let me say it again. My trainer never taught me that. We didn't go through those drills in the school of the backyard. So I need to pause and consult somebody so that they can give me some of their wisdom as it pertains to this thing. After that, then I act. But it's the basic training and the advanced individual training that I'm lacking in this arena. Therefore, I need to pause.
I really like that analogy. The only thing that sucks about that is that like people like me, we didn't get that basic training, you know. And I know a lot of people who didn't get that. We got it in the military form, but that was it. So that means I didn't get it. I wasn't able to pass on that either. You know what I mean? And then, also one of the things that I thought about too is that, you know, as my parents, raised me, they were raising a kid, child, infant, toddler, teenager, young adult. So what the stuff that they were teaching me, it wasn't registering. It wasn't I wasn't able to comprehend those things. And now sometimes I just wonder how much of what they taught me was able to translate over into adulthood. Not like anything bad, but just thinking like in general, it's like when parents are teaching, they're teaching kids. You know what I mean? They're teaching young adults. They're not teaching the adult version of me. You know what I mean? So it's just something I've always thought about sometimes, and not always, but sometimes thought about, and it just happened to pop up in this situation. So I don't know. Thought I'd bring it up for no reason. Who knows?
Apprenticeships, masters. Until we bring that concept back,
I told you.
training happens. Like, and the thing about back when they had apprenticeships, you didn't wait till you went to school to start training. Somebody from the community. See, we live in this concept to where we all have to leave our communities. We all have to leave our family and friends to make it elsewhere to prove that we're able to be successful. Why can't we be successful together right here? And there goes the apprenticeship because nobody's staying here to train long enough to become a master. Everybody wants to be a jack of all trades, want to be able to do, I like doing little handy jobs around the house, but who's mastering a craft anymore? I'm just saying.
I told you he was gonna come back.
Come back. I liking this one. Man, I hope we get to another question before we do, but we're going to do rapid fire. So the way we're going to do it tonight, we're going to do rapid fire. I'm just going to ask both of y'all the questions. Keep it simple, as minimum words as possible, and then we're going to come back to them. All right, so you're going to have time to come back and elaborate on any of these that y'all want to. So kind of make a note or something like that you may want to, any question you may want to get to. If we don't get to any, then we'll go to the next question and final thoughts. But I'm thinking that we're probably going to end up getting back to some of these rapid fires. So rapid fires, again, they're going to be for both of y'all. All right. And the chat. And if you hadn't already, I know it's 9:15. We are hour and 15 minutes into the show. But if you hadn't already, go ahead and hit that like button and share it and do all of those things. And don't forget about 10:30 tomorrow morning Eastern Standard Time. Make sure y'all be there. Make sure y'all hit that QR code over there. So the first one of the night, the first rapid fire is this, gentleman. Can chaos create opportunity?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, we got 2 yeses. Next question, rapid fire. Is waiting sometimes the best decision?
Yes.
Sometimes.
Yeah. Next. Can too many choices create confusion?
Yes.
Yes.
Next. Does experience always create clarity?
No.
Go say that quick. Is clarity a feeling or a decision?
Both.
Both. Yeah.
We're definitely coming back to that one. Should every problem be solved immediately?
No.
Mm-mm.
Next. Can someone else give you clarity?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Next. Is peace the same thing as clarity?
No.
No.
No. All right. Appreciate that, gentlemen. Which ones y'all want to go back to? I know I do want to go back to, is clarity a feeling or a decision? I think that was the one. No. Is that the one?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I definitely want to go back to that one. But did y'all have any y'all want to get to before we come back down to this one? Nope. All right. So why do y'all say both?
I mean, so
for the people who may not understand or may not get it, because when I see a decision, I'm thinking action. There's some action in there. So if I'm thinking action, I'm wondering if you guys are thinking the same thing or something totally different.
So when we talk about clarity, is it a feeling? Sometimes, yes, because some people get so erratic. A situation happens and the emotions get high, right?
Mhm.
And they get erratic. So now they can't think clearly, right? So what do I have to do? I have to now learn how to calm my emotions down, bring myself back down to a level so I can see and I can understand what's going on. But then I've come to find out that you have some people that are actually the opposite. Some people in the midst of frustration and in the midst of things getting too cloudy, they jump into action and they start to do stuff. They start to work things out until they figure it out. Some people are like that. So, but that goes to the decision point. I made a decision that I was going to search for clarity instead of sit here in this confusion and be frustrated, right? So it plays on both sides. I'm making it simplistic so I can move out the way because I know he can break it down a little better.
I don't know if I can break it down a little better, but I would say it like this. We confuse the point in which we make decisions a lot. And a lot of times we make decisions according to how we feel. But I can only allow my feelings to contribute to a decision that I need to make once my feelings are properly aligned. Once my feelings are properly aligned, they now become indicators and warnings. It's like putting trip flares along the woods to let me know that the enemy is coming. Fight or flight is a real deal, right? Make no mistake about it. It is fight or flight that actually saves the life of the deer when the attacker shows up. That's what makes him run. He senses something ain't right. You do the same thing. You just don't know you do because we oversaturate ourselves with our emotions in the wrong direction. We started talking about things called intuition. Cut it out. Cut it out. Everybody got intuition. Not one person got intuition by more than the other person. Stop it. Foolishness. Everybody has the same ability to do the exact same thing, right? Some people are a little more in tune with theirs than others. It don't necessarily mean that they're better with the thing that they're in tune with. So I can give myself a title thinking that, oh, I'm emotions first. No, you're not. You're deciding to be emotions first. So when it comes down to it, feelings and decisions go hand in hand. When you make a decision about a thing that you've never made a decision for, you might feel a little uneasy. Why? Because you don't have comfort in that. However, there are decisions that you make, you feel, you know within your gut that was the best decision for my family at this particular point in time. And no one can tell you differently because you did the proper analysis that you need to come up with the best course of action. So feelings and decision work hand in hand, and it reveals clarity. I can't just be one or the other. If it's all about decision and no feelings, that doesn't give me clarity. I'm hoping it gives me clarity. If it's all feeling, no decision, that is literally the recipe for confusion.
Yeah, I was hoping that y'all would kind of dig into that one and break it down a little bit more because I was definitely on the same side of it. It's like you gotta have can't have one with you gotta have both. So I'm definitely rocking with you guys on that. The other one was kind of two down. Can someone else give you clarity? Now, this is where I hit a little pause, especially when I think both you guys said yes. I think I was leaning towards no. And here's why I said no. It's like I can give, I can explain something to someone to I'm blue in the face, but that doesn't still, I still can't be responsible for that person's um clarity at the end of the day. So I'm looking at it like, you know, no matter what you say, coach, I'm still not getting it. It's still not clear to me. You know what I'm saying? So it's like I believe that I guess I don't know if I'm saying it the right way or not, but I guess what I'm saying is I don't know if it's more can someone give me clarity or I have to be able to understand or be able to receive or maybe going back to understand what they say in order for it to be clear because like regardless of what you say there's nothing that you can I believe nothing you can do to make me understand or make me be clarity that comes down on to me and my understanding and knowledge and information. So definitely want to hear you guys' perspective on the yes, and again always open to having my opinion changed.
My first response to you is you're right. You're absolutely right. There's nothing I can do to make you clear on the thing that you have decided that you're not going to be clear about. You're right. Can't do it. And I say that simply because it's a very simple thing. If you have made the decision to not get clarity, then you will not get clarity. That's the long short of it. Now, do I have the ability to say something different to you to make you understand something different than what you understood prior to? Yes, we've
Mhm.
seen that happen not too long ago with the breaking your house analogy. It's
Mhm.
not clarity is a facet, and make no mistake about it. Clarity is a facet of understanding, right? The more the more you understand, because understanding have different degrees. The more you understand a thing, the more crystal clear it becomes to you. Your initial level of understanding, although you may have an understanding, it may not necessarily be a good understanding. Where we make a lot of our mistakes is that I have an understanding, and therefore I think my understanding is infinite. No, it's not. In fact, it might not even be a good understanding, and somebody else can hear it and say, "Yeah." I mean, so it's so many different ways I can go in relation to this, but I don't want to talk too long because I see the time, and I know we ain't allowed Gaddy to respond to that yet. So I'm gonna yield the floor to Sir Gaddy.
I mean, for me, when I'm looking at this one, you said, "Can someone give you clarity?" I can't make you understand the thing, but I can give you information that you can use that may be a missing piece to your puzzle. Right? You may be thinking on this thing, thinking on it, and you can't gain clarity. You may come talk to me. I may not be a master at this thing, but I may have an idea. I may bring up something that triggers a thought that brings clarity. But once again, that's everything that we've talked about already falling in place because because of everything that coach just said. So there ain't no need of regurgitating it, right? But yeah, I can I can speak. I can say something. I can actually not have the answer you need. You can have the answer you need, but I just said something that put it together for you.
I also think Yes. Because like just like that, if I have the knowledge, right? Say for instance, I have the knowledge base, right? And coach says this, coach, give me clarity. Because I already have the knowledge base, I can receive the clarity and I can understand it. So I don't know. I get the yes too, though. I definitely get the yes too. I don't know, man. I get the yes too, though. Where we at? Oh, man, we have 4 minutes. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to start closing up the show with our final thoughts. But again, just any admin notes other than making sure that y'all hit that QR code to sign up and be there tomorrow morning at 10:30 at the webinar. Is anything going on this Sunday?
Bible study and TikTok Live.
Bam.
The voice of reason is leading TikTok Live, so it's going to be a good one.
Shout out to the voice of reason, TikTok Live on Sunday. So with that being said, gentlemen, we're gonna go around the horn and we're gonna end the show with our final thoughts. Here we go.
First off, thank you, Unc, for this show. I thoroughly enjoyed the conversation. Clarity. We're kind of continuing in on this clarity concept, right? But we have to get out our own way sometimes. The problem with clarity sometimes is me, right? Too often we get into the space of trying to get in the Most High's way. When we talked last week, and I think we talked about it a little bit on Sunday, we start talking about what does this trust thing look like? What does it mean to trust in him? What does it mean to allow him to do what he's going to do, right? Get out of the way, trust the master plan. We talked about all these things. Sometimes with clarity, it's not meant for you to chase it. Sometimes the clarity is when you come into alignment with the understanding that the Most High is in control anyway. I don't know why I lost the house, but I know it's in his plan, whatever that looks like. See, maybe the reason why I could not reset and get back on my feet because I'm too busy trying to figure out the way. And sometimes the answer is wait. Sometimes you don't have the answer, so you can't make a move. Why are we trying to have a fix before we have the answer? Some things you do have to act automatic, but I think when we get back into alignment with our faith in the Most High, that relieves some of the anxiety that clouds our judgment. And because some of these answers we have it, some and the rest of them we know where to go get them. But the problem is we got too much going on in our emotion and in our mind that we cannot think clear enough, that there's no clarity in our thought pattern, that we can't walk our way out of this. You have the answer. Relax, calm down, breathe. He's prepared. He's prepared an answer for you, even if that's withstand the storm. He prepared an answer for you. That's all I got on my final thought.
How do I find clarity when chaos strikes? You won't. I'm just going to be transparent with you. If you wait until chaos strikes to find clarity, you're going to have to weather the storm. You're going to have to deal with whatever chaos deals with you. You're going to have to deal with however chaos deals with you in that moment. Waiting until chaos strikes to find clarity is like that's like insanical. You're supposed to prepare. You're supposed to. That's why we started talking about training. The more you prepare for certain situations, we talked about training as it pertains to the military. We talked about training as it pertains to the family. The military does not wait till conflict to decide to prepare for chaos. No, They prepare for chaos while in competition, conversation back and forth between, two different countries, things of that nature. They're preparing for it, and they're preparing for it really well. And so are we. We're supposed to be prepared for it. We're supposed to know how to regulate emotions, to respond in the midst of conflict and things of that nature, what to say, to appropriate agencies to make things move the way. All those things are supposed to be in you already. So when you wait until chaos hits, you're not going to find clarity. You're going to find confusion. You're going to have to weather the storm. You're going to have to learn the lesson that chaos is actually teaching you in that moment. Because make no mistake about it, that's why chaos came. It came to teach you a lesson. Now the question is, are you going to learn the lesson, or are you going to revert back to your young adolescent years and complain about the lesson that chaos was trying to teach you, but yet you missed it? And if you think I'm joking, have thou considered my servant Job. He was in chaos, lots of it. And the one person that was supposed to stand by him seemed like the one person that no one expected to turn on him. If you read the story, right? It happens over and over again. You have to prepare yourself for these things. And don't get me wrong, he had a good preparation plan as well. If when I go back and look at it though, it just seemed like she wasn't really part of the plan. She was there. I don't know how active she was though. That's just my opinion though, because it doesn't really say in detail. We can look at stuff like that and then look at life today. How are we preparing to keep conflict outside the door? Because make no mistake about it, it goes competition, conflict, chaos, conflict. It's just a higher level of conflict now. That last conflict, we're at war. Because we could not get to the point that we regulated the environment so chaos would not, persist. That's the key. So once we get to the point of understanding how to prevent war, how to prevent chaos, how to deal with conflict in such a way that it does not exacerbate and grow into chaos, you don't have to worry about finding clarity in chaos. You just worry about staying in clarity because peace is present. That's my final thought.
There were pieces that both of these brothers mentioned that was actually part of my final thought. And with that being said, I'm glad because it kind of lets me know that I'm amongst good company, amongst like-minded people. So definitely appreciate you brothers for that, even before I get into my final thought. So I like the fact that, we're all on the same wavelength. So, again, conversation tonight about finding clarity when chaos strikes. Ebbs and flows, chaos is going to hit. Being prepared for it, just as Coach mentioned, is one of the best things that you can do because life is and will go and will happen. And the better you are prepared for it, the better you are as you're going through it, and the better your outcome may be. Um, Also, with just when it comes to clarity, I remember a few years ago, if you just look at clarity and how important it is in our life in general, when you have understanding, when things are clearer, you can be a lot more focused and a lot more dialed in, and things can just work a lot better for you overall in life. Again, back to the preparedness piece that Coach just talked about, clarity is a huge piece. It's very, very huge. It's very, very important in our lives. Clarity, and understanding, it helps in all relationships. It helps on your job. It helps with a lot more things. So, if nothing else, shout out to clarity for tonight. Um, and that is, yeah, that's my final thought for tonight. Gentlemen, chat, I definitely appreciate every single letter that was typed and every syllable that was said tonight. I think this was a really great conversation. I learned a lot. Wish I had my pen and pad, and since I don't, I get the fortunate opportunity of having YouTube, and I get to go back and rewatch it. So, gentlemen, you guys got anything before we sign off of here? All right. Again, y'all heard that. Make sure you hit that link. But before you hit that link and then scan that QR code, make sure you sign out, hit the thumbs up, share it, all those good things. And I think that's it. All right. We'll see y'all tomorrow, all these different things, Tuesday, and then again on next Friday. So we
I'm
are
ready to
out.
receive.
Have a good weekend.